streets that would be nearby, or like nearby my P.O. box, which is a public address, and the local college and stuff. And I think it's more of a scare tactic. But I've noticed it happens after 10 p.m.
After 10 p.m.?
I don't usually have any plus ones before 10 p.m. And usually I'll notice a plus one before somebody will come into the room.
Coming from Google?
Well, plus one is here on Blab.
Oh, okay. They'll plus. This will come from Blab itself?
Well, there'll be a plus one in the room, which means that they're not logged in through Twitter. So if you see the circles on your computer
at the top, right? Uh-huh.
Yeah, if you see one that just says +1 or +2, +4, that means there's people online that are not logged into Blab. They can't chat with you, but they're watching.
Oh, they're just watching.
Yes, and then they'll come into the room under a brand new account and say hateful, nasty things, leave immediately. And then they'll do it again under another name.
Oh, okay. Yes. Yeah. Have you ever looked at any of our articles? When you get a chance, I want you to take a look at some of our articles, because we're trying to bring to light the idea that electronic harassment is very prevalent. And I think a lot of people really don't know that it's going on to the extent that it's going on. And there's a lot of cases, actual cases right now, where a number of individuals are indeed experiencing these problems.
I just clicked on one of yours, and it says that it encountered an internal error or misconfiguration, unable to complete my request. Contact the server administrator, which is you.
Okay. Which particular link was that?
That was the first link, the targeted individual link. I'll try the second link now. And the second link.
Okay, the first link.
And the second link. The third link went through.
Okay.
Operating the brain by remote control.
Okay, the targeted individuals link. Yeah, I'm looking at that page right now. As a result of clicking on that link, what type of browser do you have, by the way?
I'm on my iPhone.
Oh, it's on the iPhone itself?
Oh,
okay. Yeah, I have to try it on the iPhone and see. Is there any way you can refresh any of those pages that don't load?
Okay, it's just the first two that don't load. Let me see. Refresh. Now it went through.
Oh, okay. It seems to have gone through?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll make a note that please refresh any links or pages that don't load. I don't know why that happens, but I find that sometimes when it does happen, we just refresh, and it seems to go through.
And the second one went through as well.
Oh, okay. So what do you think about the idea of the subject matter? Oh, yeah, for anybody, I just want to make a note of that, just in case anybody wants to know what we're doing here, okay? We're just trying to, you guys, add a little bit of credibility to the idea that there are targeted individuals, there is electronic harassment going on, and we need to be aware that there is bona fide cases where the government and or corporate America, for instance, is targeting individuals and either electronically or what we call gang stalking, or as Charlene's talking about, harassing online when we go from social media's website or whatever that these are some of the places where we find a lot of electronic harassment. So make sure you guys understand that electronic harassment comes in various forms, and it could be online, offline, with devices. It could be gang stalking, and just make sure you guys understand and be aware of it so that we cast a little bit of light on the subject matter. I'm sorry. You want to add anything, Charlene, to what we're just referring to, as far as your own personal experience?
What?
Is anything else that we may have left out as far in regards to your own personal experience in terms of what you're going through?
No, it's, I've been told to try and ignore it, and I've tried to ignore it, and they still come back. And I don't know. So
far, there is no specific motives other than to hit you where it hurts most in regards to your son and his particular situation, right?
Yeah, that's pretty much the goal.
Yeah, that's pretty much consistent with what a lot of our customers tell us, actually. A number of customers tell us the things that, are more important to you. Anything that you cherish is typically used as a way to target, unfortunately.
But why do they do that? Like, it doesn't make any sense to me.
Well, there's lots of different theories. When customers call us, Charlene, unfortunately, people, we all try to figure out what is the motive. Why is it going on, right? Sometimes it's immediately apparent, and sometimes it really is. You really have to stretch your imagination in terms of trying to figure out why.
I don't bother anybody. I don't know.
Well,
I blab about autism and special needs and the challenges and the happy part of it and everything else. I don't understand how that is something. And I blog about I blab about some serious topics. I just doesn't make sense why somebody would choose to be so hurtful to somebody when it's very apparent and clear that somebody is going through so much.
Well, some of the reasons, for instance, that we're finding, you may be onto something. Maybe you're reaching people. Maybe you're shedding a little bit of light on the truth in terms of what autism is really about, or where it's coming from. See, sometimes when people feel that you're headed in the right direction, and you may be reaching out to people, telling them, more than the public should know about a given topic. See, that's a threat. Unfortunately, there's a major industry. You know as well as I do. There's a major industry.
Yeah, the pharmaceutical agency is crazy.
Right, exactly. So anything that they can do to discredit you, to make you stop, advising so many people that there is a real problem, and that there are some solutions to the problem, and basically letting people know where the problem is coming from. See, that's another issue. A lot of us are under the impression that autism has a lot to do with, for instance,
vaccinations.
Vaccinations, right?
Which isn't entirely true.
Yeah. So anyone that's leaning in that direction, causing people to, be more wary of vaccinations. Well, guess what? Now you're threatening this major industry that's based upon, giving vaccinations as early as possible. And that is a threat. So just keep in mind that, whenever you're onto something, whenever you're educating and reaching out to a lot of people, and you may be more effective than you could imagine in terms of reaching people, someone is going to pop up and say, wait a minute, let's try to figure out how to instill a little bit of fear, uncertainty, and doubt around what you're saying and what you're doing.
Being that this is recorded, and I'm sure they're probably going to watch it because I'm on here, I'm not fearful. I'm not going to stop talking about it.
Okay,
it's
well,
real.
If there's anything that you want to, where you want to go off the record, because I appreciate your willingness to let people know, and we want to positively affect as many people as possible. We want to let them know, look, at least two of us are not gonna, are not gonna hide and pretend like these aren't major issues.
It is a major issue. It's a major concern. It's cruel.
Exactly. Right.
It's hurtful. And
I agree with you.
I don't know.
I've written extensively on the pharmaceutical industry and what's going on with the water, pharmaceuticals in the water, how people are giving opiate grade painkillers, etc. So trust me.
It's craziness.
Right. When you blog, are you specifically blogging on autism? How extensive what is the subject matter you're blogging on?
For my blog, where I was writing, it was more of a release and like almost like a autobiography of my journey. So it's not good. Just about autism. Like it involves Tourette's and my daughter had cancer, so it involved that. And the mitochondrial disease and the autism and the Asperger's and that stuff. But it was more of a personal thing. But when I blab, it's more direct. Like we touch base on, everybody asks, well, what causes it?
Right.
And the answer is nobody knows, nobody will know. It's more of an evolution and that's my belief on it. But
now when you say nobody knows the cause of it, you're speaking specifically about autism or Tourette's or some of the other ones?
Specifically about autism. Like nobody really knows what causes it. I know my son was born the way he is.
What about the vaccinations? What do you think about the vaccinations at an early age? You think that may have something to do with it?
I think that in some cases, and I'm going to state this very carefully, in some cases, if autism is already something that is like underlying, but maybe not, it's almost dormant.
Right.
And it can be triggered. Kind of like cancer. Everybody has cancer in their body. But
okay.
It can get triggered. It's very similar with autism.
Oh, okay.
The amount of shots and the how quickly they give them, the frequency, how many we have to have all at once. They want to give 4 or 5 shots in one doctor's visit, and that's insane.
Right.
The MMR shot being combined rather than keeping them as 3 separate shots. It definitely makes a difference. Did it cause my son's autism? No. My son was clearly autistic beforehand. Did I notice a difference after he had his first MMR shot? Yes. I can see the pictures and I see, a change in his eyes. But do I say that definitely had to do with the MMR shot? Or is that just something that, he was growing older, or maybe the light was different that day? I don't know.
Well, let me ask you a question. In your child, when he was vaccinated, how old was he?
His vaccinations were not on time. He had the one prick they get in the hospital.
Right.
And then he didn't have shots for a month after that. And usually they get shots like 3 or 4 days later. They get a shot, and then he only had 1 shot at his 1 month. So I would only give him 1 vaccination. And then he took a month off, and then he got another shot. And I was very picky about the way I situated them. There were certain shots that were like absolutely necessary, because I'm not going to say they're bad. I don't want people to go on not vaccinating their kids.
Right.
Because there is importance to it. I get it. But when you're not leaving your house with your baby and the baby's just going to be at home, there's really no need to extensively vaccinate. Like over-vaccinate is how I feel it is.
Yeah, let me make sure I understand this. Now, even at that early of an age, how did you ascertain that your child actually was not autistic, or was autistic rather, in your case?
My child, I have pictures of him 3 days old, and I was holding him, and you could see the look on his face was like, don't touch me. He screamed every time you touched him. He didn't like smile or coo or giggle or look at you. He'd always look to the side. He hated being touched. He wouldn't eat if you were holding him. You had to put him down. He was a very rigid baby. And then as he got older, it was just, he just wasn't interested. It was almost like there was no bond at all, like from a baby, which is not typical of babies. They usually bond very quickly when they have that attention, and he wanted nothing to do with it. Okay, and I have 4 kids. So
did the medical profession actually diagnose him?
Absolutely. They diagnosed him at 3.5.
And at 3.5 years old.
Yeah, it was a fight.
But he had received the vaccinations prior to that, though.
Yeah, but he was delayed for 3.5 years. They just kept saying he's just slow, but he was getting early intervention and everything else before that.
Okay. Well, let me ask you a question. What do you think about the idea that there's a lot of aluminum being spread through the chemtrails? That's another controversy, right?
Oh yeah.
You think that may have something to do with it or not?
I do think there's a lot of environmental factors that have to do with it. I mean, what do you think about the fact that, we are man and we came, there was an evolution of man, true?
Right.
Man evolved into what we are now. We've learned more. We use more of our brain. We use it in different ways than we did back, 100 years from now.
Exactly.
We've become different people. What if autism is part of that evolution of man? And along the evolution of man, there's always glitches. Things don't always go perfect.
Well, I guess if there were some sort of genetic, scientific
there are
proof.
I haven't found the proof yet, but they're definitely, for instance, I have 2 boys that are autistic.
Right.
My sister has a boy that's autistic.
Right.
My nephew, or not my nephew, my distant cousin, my cousin is autistic. My grandmother, it was my mother's sister, so my aunt's daughter, she was autistic.
Right.
My 3rd cousin is autistic. So do you see the trail? It keeps going.
Well, no, I'm not denying that certain diseases or symptoms or whatever aren't prevalent in our genes. I mean, that's a given. But I guess what we have to ask ourselves is, why do we see such a significant percentage of the population all of a sudden showing these traits? Right.
Okay. You ready?
Sure.
Here's my answer.
Okay.
We are looking for them now. We know what we're looking at. Before it was, this person is mentally retarded. We're going to stick them in a home and nobody will see or hear from them.
Right.
So it's hidden away. Or the parents would keep them in the house and they would never leave the house with them. Nobody knew what autism was. Nobody knew the spectrum of it. When we come up with those numbers, you have to understand we're going from, they're calculating children that are like genius level, Asperger's.
Right.
And not all Asperger's are genius level, but we're going from, I'm trying to go from the highest end to the lowest end to totally nonverbal children. And that's a huge spectrum. So when you think about that, you have to remember those numbers are reflecting all of those people, of which those higher functioning people would not have been diagnosed back in the day and given any social help. They just would have been outcasts in their community, but they're smart, and they'd be there. You know what I mean? They'd be called a nerd or whatever it was then, and they might not have a lot of friends, but nobody looked at that.
Right, of
Whereas
course.
now we're seeing where it all kind of ties together so that we can give them the services that they can then give to their community. Does that make sense?
No, I guess what I'm what I'm concerned about is we know that, unfortunately, and I think you made a reference to it, environmental factors playing a large role in the total number of people. Well, so we can go back and we can take a look at blood samples. We can take a look at the family traits and histories. You know, we can do a lot with biology now. You know, analyzing cells and different things.
But I don't think it's just chemtrails.
Well, no, I didn't say no, not exclusively. I guess what I'm asking, what I'm bringing out, and this is for the audience as well. When we have a significant amount of industrial pollutants, okay, the fluorides in the water, the different things that we're exposed to, I think a lot of the biologists nowadays will tell you we're triggering the body's defenses, and we're faced with a different environment, or maybe not. Maybe you think that the environment is not part of this overall issue.
I feel like it definitely makes a difference. I think it makes a difference what foods we're deciding to ingest in our body, where it's coming from,
right,
what kind of processing is in it.
Okay.
What, and there's not enough education about it. In the US, there are more foods in the US that are banned in other countries just due to what's in them. How scary is that?
Right.
Like the other countries, no, this is not acceptable here. We won't do that. Kraft has to make a separate macaroni and cheese for the UK because the UK will not allow the macaroni and cheese that we eat here in their country.
Okay, that kind of ties into, I guess, my point. The things that we're allowing corporate America and even our government to get away with, as far as lowering standards and what we can eat.
And when you want something healthy, you pay like 5 times the price for it.
Exactly. Right. So I think these are some of the things that seem to be a smoking gun in terms of why we have so many more individuals, in my opinion, because we're allowing corporate America and government to get away with so much more, particularly in the United States, right?
I do agree with that. I think the United States doesn't have enough of the guidelines. They don't put clear. I mean, some of our dog food has higher standards than people food, which is crazy.
Exactly.
And that does need to change. And there needs to be more education about what exactly you're putting into your kids, because people don't know. We try and get by. You've got kids. You got to find food that's reasonable in price and that you can afford to feed them. And I'll be honest, I struggle because it's expensive to feed my kids. And my son has like a disease that really impacts what he eats, and it's tough.
Now this is part of the conspiracy, because when I get calls, and we get them every day, because we decided to carve out a market niche for ourselves in terms of trying to educate people about harassment on the various levels and people being targeted individuals. This is what they're telling me, Charlene. They're saying, look, this is done intentionally. Our government and corporate America, for instance, and even the major universities and research institutions, they're trying to see how badly they can affect and keep us dumbed down, keep us malnourished, keep us ignorant, so that they can control us and do these type. What do you think about that idea?
I think I'm not much of a conspiracist.
Well, what do you think about the idea that this is probably not just some happenstance situation whereby, I
think that's very possible.
Right. Now, you mentioned that it's easier for you to find food that's cheap but low quality as compared
back in the day, yes.
Right.
I mean, I still can't find cheap food, but we don't use processed foods. So.
Well, when I say cheap, I mean food that's low priced. If you want to find low priced food that's very good for you and wholesome and organic, hopefully, that's more difficult. You're not gonna find it. Now, some people may say that was done intentionally or is being done intentionally. What do you think about that idea?
I know it's being done intentionally. That's just like, when you go to buy a bike for your daughter, right?
Right.
You spend what, $80 on a bike?
Exactly.
If I go and buy a bike for my son, I'm going to spend $300 on the bike. And they're using the same amount of materials, just making it a little bit different to accommodate him. But because it's got special needs attached to it, you spend a whole lot more. It's the same with, eating utensils. It don't cost that much more to have a thicker spoon, a thicker handle, or to put a little bit of cushion on it. But that spoon costs $10 for one spoon, whereas, you know what I'm saying? So it's all around. It really is all around. It really makes no sense because, well, I guess it makes sense to them. The market is there for it, so they can.
Well, the good news is there's more and more people are catching on to the idea that these things don't make sense. Okay, if we're going to have a population of people that are going to be getting access to quality education, quality food, quality wheelchair handicap accessible facilities, for instance, then we need to change the priorities, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right. And it seems like to me, the word is getting out that it doesn't really make sense to have good food for our children and for ourselves priced so that we have to sacrifice in terms of whether or not we're going to pay our bills or eat right.
But then
or
you have
vice versa.
to think about it.
Right.
Do you know how hard it would be to really have? I mean, come on, there's a huge section in the grocery store of organic food, but is it really organic? Because our air is poisoned, our soil is poisoned, the rain that falls down on our soil is poisoned. How can you have organic anything?
Well, it's relative. I think someone stated, I know I'm going to misquote this thing, but they stated that you don't necessarily have to sacrifice perfection, in our attempts to accomplish these things. In other words, we want perfection, but we don't have to not strive to get there. I mean, not make an honest attempt to get there in the first place. And basically, what they're saying is, as you mentioned, with the food, it just because it's labeled organic, it doesn't mean that we shouldn't eat it or prefer to have it, as compared to food that's not clearly labeled non-organic, right?
Well, I will go for food that says naturally without added hormones, and I will not pay the extra $3 to get that same product as organic, because one of them says organic and one of them says not injected with any hormones, nothing else, all natural, and I'll buy that one.
Oh, sure.
Because the one that says it's organic is an extra $3.
Yeah.
Or the butter that says gluten-free when butter is gluten-free. So I don't need an extra $1 to have that gluten-free on the butter.
See, I think it's terrible for us to make that decision with our families. Look, if this were a halfway fair and equitable playing field out there for us, we would probably go into the grocery store and say, look, let's just get the best food out there for consumers. Okay, let's just make absolutely sure that we understand what we put on our bodies. It's very important. If we're going to subsidize big oil, if we're going to subsidize the major telecommunications companies, for instance, who don't need government welfare, why don't we take some of that money, put it into the food and the way we make food available to the citizens? Wouldn't that give us a better payback on our tax money?
Definitely.
Right.
I mean, yeah, because we'd probably have less of the illness and because and that's where it gets touchy, because like autism has the leaky gut syndrome.
Right.
It's part of it. And that's a big diet issue. It really is.
Oh, sure.
It's a big diet issue.
Well, everything comes back to diet almost, right? I mean, when you think about it.
We have a +1.
Oh, okay.
Sorry.
What was that?
No, we don't. I'm wrong.
Okay.
I'm seeing the 3, and I panicked. I'm sorry.
Oh, yeah, no big deal. I'll understand you.
I saw the number changed, and I was like, oh.
They're following you. Okay.
Yeah, I was about to go off camera for a minute.
I'll understand if you have to. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
But it's not after 10 o'clock, so I should.
Oh, okay. Yeah. There you go. Okay.
I'm paranoid, but I forgot what I was saying.
Well, the leaky gut syndrome. The leaky gut is part of the autism-related disorder that your son has.
Yeah, and changing the diet helps to an extent for most kids.
Okay.
Not for mine,
that
but
makes sense.
For most kids.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
And we've dropped Red 40. He does not take milk anymore. He's dairy free, lactose free. We are not going gluten free.
Right.
I feel like that's kind of like one of those big rampages.
Yeah.
All of the companies make so much money to make all this gluten-free stuff. And I know that some people are gluten sensitive or gluten intolerant, but it's not as many. Like, they've pushed it on the autism community, like that's going to make a difference. It's just another way to take our money.
Right.
I saw no change. I did it for 6 months. It was 6 terrible months in my house because food was scarce.
Right. Well, I think there's going to be certain things that the public is going to latch onto and probably put a little bit too much emphasis on. We see a label that says blah 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 free or something, and we all demand that from that point on we get that product and not realizing what is it actually that we're going after. I think we're trying to demand better food, better nutrition, but sometimes we can cling onto these labels that
and we don't really read the labels. I've picked up food that was supposed to be good for you,
right?
And if I can't pronounce it, it's not good.
It's probably not good, right?
It's probably not good. So we don't get it. But I do a lot, the cheeses, they have to be like blocks. I don't buy the pre-sliced and nothing. It's got to be a block. Let me turn it on 1 second.
Sure.
Get the milk out of your bedroom. That would not be cool. Yeah.
Well, that's interesting. I think we look at these labels and all of a sudden we go berserk, and in terms of trying to make sure it almost like becomes a trend or a fad to have these certain labels on or off the product, and then, but like you say, we really have to look closely. And then you find
products that don't even have them, like products that wouldn't even have gluten, say gluten free.
Right.
Confuses the heck out of me. I'm like,
right.
I hope so. Like, there shouldn't be gluten in this. Like, there's Earth's Best makes a really good butter. That's dairy free. Yeah, but bring me the syrup in your glass. I was saying something.
Well,
holy cow!
Yeah, that's okay. Speaking of the labels, unfortunately, the what's actually in the products we have to use a little bit of common sense in terms of trying to figure out whether or not that's a beneficial thing or non-beneficial, or whether or not we're just going to an extreme. I think one example, once upon a time, we were told that remove salt from your diet. Salt is a no-no. Get it off your table, get it out of your house, etc. Everybody's going to get high blood pressure and you're going to die of a heart attack in a minute. So we immediately rushed out and we looked in our cupboards and on our tables, and we took the salt and we threw it in the garbage, right?
Yeah.
For the most part. But then we found out that, wait a minute, we do need some sodium in our diets, right?
I'm sorry.
No, I was just saying that the sodium, for instance, we thought that there was absolutely too much sodium in our diets, and we didn't realize that there was a distinction that we needed to make between good and bad salt. Not all salts are equal. Not all cholesterol is equal, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
There's certain things where the pendulum swings in one particular direction, and we don't realize it until after the fact.
Isn't that about the Himalayan sea salt? That's the best salt to use, or
well, yeah, there's probably 3 of them that we can actually put on our tables and put on our food and not worry, because the body was not meant to have a salt deficiency.
Exactly.
Right, and we were
the iodinized salt is what's bad.
Right, the table salt. I think in the 1930s or 40s, somebody decided, look, let's go ahead and put this crappy salt out there on the food in the grocery stores and let the consumers buy it. And we suffered the consequences of the high blood pressures and all these different things. And we didn't realize till afterwards that there's different types of salt. There's absolutely nothing wrong with sea salt, Himalayan salt, and some of these types of salts, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, it's an educational thing, definitely, where we have to not panic too much, and we have to actually understand. Our body can use a lot of different nutrients, but there's some are good and some are bad, and let's try to figure out the differences.
Yeah. I bought milk. I'm so irritated. I bought a half gallon of milk because every time I buy it, it goes to waste.
Oh, okay.
Like it goes sour. So I bought a half gallon last night and it's almost empty because now they're going to drink it. Because I won't buy a full gallon. Because if I bought the gallon, it would go bad.
Right.
But I'm not going to the store tomorrow to get milk.
And it's going bad too soon.
No, they're drinking it too soon today.
Oh, okay. Right.
But typically, yes, it goes bad really quick.
Yeah.
But I can't afford to go to there's a farm up the road from me that does unpasteurized milk.
Yeah.
But it's really expensive.
Oh, sure. Of course there is. Well, that's an issue that I think we need to really grapple with, because looks like we're getting food that is filling to some extent, but it's not really nutritious to the point where it keeps us from having to have another meal right after another.
Yeah, which would be why the obesity rate in America is so high.
Right, exactly.
That and fast food, but that's all okay in moderation. I'm not.
We all deserve a good burger every once in a while, right?
Yeah.
Right. There's nothing wrong with that.
I mean, I don't eat it at all, but McDonald's has the Ronald McDonald House, and I really do support that because it's an amazing program.
Okay.
So.
For education?
Oh, no, they house families that have sick children. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever heard of this video, the Bitter Truth, about sugar?
Mm-hmm.
Sugar, the bitter. What do you think about that? I thought that was really eye-opening.
It is eye-opener. Did you know that cigarettes actually are cured in sugar, and that's why they're addicting?
No.
Yeah.
Sick. I never heard of that before. You mind if we have another person? You mind if we have another person jump in?
Carlton.
Oh, it's nobody good. It's just me.
Oh, okay. let me mute the microphone. Just have to get
ask your sister to help you for a moment.
Hi, Carlton.
Hello, Monty. Is that right?
Yeah. How you doing?
I'm doing well, Monty. How about yourself?
Not too bad. I saw you in another blab. I thought that was interesting. The way you had your screen set up and everything over there. Toast to you too.
Everybody comments on that. It's so funny. I never gave it any thought. It's just that the camera's got a short cord and the computer's on end of the desk. So it's sort of sitting on top of a monitor.
What are you doing? Getting that?
And then this is a monitor here. Then I got my other monitor in front of me.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Reminds me of that guy who peeps over the fence and
Wilson.
Home Improvement.
Yes. Wilson.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Like what you never see his face, but every once in a while he comes to the gate and the guys are talking back and forth.
Exactly. They've kind of adopted him as my little hero. I saw the Stop Electronic Harassment and I said, "Oh my God, Charlene must be in that room, if no other."
What do you think about this crazy topic? It's kind of weird, huh, Carlton?
It's sad. We reported a guy on her Hangout. She probably's already talked about it last night.
Okay.
And this is one of those aspects that I think social media has yet to get a good response to. There doesn't seem to be a way to control very well people who enjoy harassing, and stalking literally other people online.
Exactly. Right. What do you think is going on here? Why are people what would motivate someone to want to stalk you from social media site to site without,
I can't answer that. I wish I had an answer for that. It seems like a whole bunch of answers sort of just pop into my head, whether it's just stupidity, whether it's a lack of anything better to do, whether they're sociopaths and there really is something wrong with them. I don't know. You know what? I'm maybe overly sensitive to that. I don't even want to be in a room where everybody doesn't want me there, much less follow people around that don't want me,
Exactly. Now, just to make a distinction for the people who are new to, going online and chatting and all this, there's a difference between a troll and a person who's stalking you online, right? The motivations are different.
Yeah.
A troll usually comes in, they say stupid things, and then they go to another room and they go and they say usually the same thing to that room.
Right.
And they bounce around and make their sillies or whatever.
Right.
I was telling sorry, Sharon, go ahead.
No, that's okay.
No, finish.
Tends to constantly have the same message and the same agenda, and they follow you to every room. And when they get banned, they make up another account and say the same things over and over again.
Oh, okay.
Like it is, yeah.
For that whole thing.
So the stalker is more personal. It's a more personal. It's like a vendetta.
Go ahead, Carlton. I've got kids too.
Yeah, go ahead, Charlene. Go ahead. I was talking to Charlene the other day, and I said, she has one that follows her around and says the most horrific things about. I won't even repeat them on here. It seems like for no other reason than to hurt her or make her cry or to upset her, in a bad way.
Really?
Yes. And I've known two other instances. One was for one. I had my own little stalker once, and then one was for somebody else. The somebody else was someone from Google Hangout, and it was a very nice person. Had done absolutely nothing to encourage this kind of behavior, but at one point in one of their Hangouts, they had mentioned where they worked. Because I think someone just asked them what they did for living.
Oh, okay, right.
And now the stalker actually started writing physical letters to that person's boss, claiming that they were involved in criminal behavior, all kinds of horrific things.
Oh, really?
And this person,
she got fired.
And this person, well, I don't know when I'm talking about a different one as a guy, but this guy, he worked for the school system.
Wow.
Now, in the school system being what it is today, they sort of have to err on the side of safety. So they did. This person almost lost their job over absolutely nothing that they did wrong. I had one following me around doing similar things, making just these horrific comments online on every post that I made that had nothing to do with the post at all. It got to the point where they were saying things that were so serious, I had to delete my account because there was no way that I wanted any of that connected with me, even though it meant losing a whole bunch of people and starting over.
Oh, okay.
But I think we do need to find an answer to this. And I don't quite know how to do it, although I've had a thought, but it's not really fully formed yet, which is that I think we need some type of instead of making an account on Twitter and one on Periscope and one on Blab and one on Google and one on Facebook and so forth, I think we need to be able to centralize sort of usernames so that there's one location, kind of like getting a domain name. So there's one location where you go and get your user account. And then everybody else needs to agree in social media to play by the same rules. So everybody would use or allow that same account. So it would be your same account everywhere, and you need to pay for this account. It doesn't have to be anything. It could be $1 a year, but some form of, so that we have a check or a credit card or some way to track back to you. And then that's what we need, I think, to manage that from. But wouldn't know how to begin to implement something like that.
Okay, basically, a identification system that, as you mentioned, if it's centralized, then it's centralized, but some sort of way of maybe put a barrier where you do a little bit more to not only get online but to stay online, right?
Yeah, and so like I said, so if we know if I know that this is Monty's account because Monty paid for this with his credit card,
exactly.
Well, then if Monty starts doing things that are illegal or borderline, like stalking people, then somebody can actually take some action. Law enforcement can take some action. We can prevent Monty from making a new account, at least with his credit card. People will eventually run out of credit cards.
Right. That's right.
Where it is now, I could make accounts all day long and just make up email addresses and go get a new free email address, and nobody knows the difference. And so there really is nothing we can do other than boot you out of the Hangout one time, but that doesn't really solve the problem.
Wow. Yeah, I've never thought about that the problem was that serious, let alone what type of solution we need to apply to it.
Oh, it is amazing. It is amazing how serious it is.
Yeah.
I've seen
know another individual that actually got fired from her job because of people on the internet. And they've got another Twitter account that she's been fighting to get taken off that actually has a picture of her father and a whole bunch of hateful things on it.
Oh, really?
And it really is real. And I don't understand why people feel the need to. I guess misery loves company.
I saw one once, and Charlene, are you on? Can your children hear this if I say this out loud?
No.
Okay,
you're on my headphones.
Okay. So, and again, this was one that somebody on Google Hangout, and there was a young girl on Google Hangout. She couldn't have been more than about 14, but she was very, very intelligent, very articulate, and she had done some really excellent posts. She was talking about religion and philosophy and her ideas and what her beliefs were. And there was this other guy, an adult, okay? This guy, I've seen him on Hangout before. He's probably in his 30s or 40s, right? And he's on there. And please pardon my French, but there's no other way I can do this justice but to say it.
Right.
He's posting to this 14-year-old girl, "You're stupid, effing cunt, and you this," and just all saying horrific things to this poor girl who's 14, who in the face of this actually responded with an incredible amount of restraint and demeanor, and she was wonderful. But this guy kept following her around, just calling her all kinds of the worst names you can imagine in the book. And I think this is a lot of what parents don't realize happens when especially when their children are on social media. and that there are people out there that are preying on children. They're looking for kids to get alone in a conversation. Or even if it's a post, even if it's a blog or on Facebook or wherever it happens to be. And there needs to be, and I don't know how to control this. At my end, I talked to somebody, we were talking about the same topic last night, and this other guy, he is against any kind of regulatory interference. He doesn't want the government to step in and say, okay, you got to be 15 to be on this website or on that website. But yet there's a problem out there that parents really, truly can't control. I mean, they can lessen it. They can have some oversight, and they should have some oversight into their child's life. But that child goes to school, they go to the library, they hang out with friends that have cell phones. They can't possibly control all these avenues of access. So, yeah, I don't know what the right answer is. Sorry for that long speech, Mike.
Well, that's okay. No, I'm
I had too much wine.
I'm brainstorming while you mentioned that because I run a business, and for a long, long time, we have a saying in that the customer is always right.
Yeah,
and I'm learning that the customer is not always right. Sometimes customers take advantage of businesses. I was reading an article, for instance, where a number of customers were doing all sorts of things. Like they would buy a product from a company, practically destroy it, and then they would go back to the company with just a few shreds and try to compel that company to give them a refund or something, right?
Yep.
And depending upon the company, sometimes you want to accommodate the customers, but at the same time, you already know that you're being taken advantage of. Yep. And there was a few companies that actually suffered significant financial losses, almost to the point of going out of business, as a result of trying to accommodate customers who had the worst intentions to begin with, right?
It does. My wife has a similar business. We make weighted blankets for autistic children, and as sad as it is, especially when you're trying to do something good for people.
Exactly.
From time to time, we get people that we can't prove they're taking advantage of the system, but the person who says, they order a blanket, it costs them $150 or $200. You ship it. FedEx says we delivered it. And then the person calls you up and says, oh, I never got it.
Exactly. Right.
And I'm like, yeah.
Right. Like we can prove this.
Yeah. We know we dropped it at your door. Well, I wasn't home and somebody stole it. And I'm like, yeah,
exactly.
Okay.
Now, see, I ran across an article. Okay. And there were some entrepreneurs that said, look, we're hearing this a lot. And what we're going to do, we're going to come out with a database. And if I have a bad customer and you, Carlton, or Charlene has this same customer going from company to company taking advantage, ultimately what we can do is we're going to report this customer, right? And we're going to put this information, our stories, in a database. And pretty soon what's going to happen is merchants, if they want, they can query these databases and get a sort of like a rating on customers, almost like Amazon rates products or something. Yep. And pretty soon we'll look at this database and we'll say, you know what? This is a significant transaction. The dollar amount is significant. What if I just look in a database and see whether or not this customer is being responsible, right?
Right. So
believe it or not, I created a blog that covers probably 3 or 4 of these different entrepreneurs who decided we're gonna expose the truth about customers, whether or not they're perfect or not. We're just gonna let everyone know, look, just in case you get one of these customers and you want to report it, go ahead and we'll put them in a database. And if anybody else wants to search it and see whether or not that customer's in there or not, then you can do that.
Well, this is sort of like, right, and I don't know, I really don't know how I feel about this one. This is sort of like, remember the old, some people still do it, but it was more common earlier on for the internet, right? You go to a restaurant or you go to a store and people would post bad checks. They'd stick them up on the bulletin board.
Oh, exactly. Right? Same thing. Yeah.
By the register. And I didn't know how I feel because clearly a person could accidentally write a bad check. It doesn't mean they were trying to steal. Right. So I think as long as you maintain that and give that person the opportunity to kind of recoup their check and pay for it.
Oh, yeah.
But to just leave them up there forever. I'm like, but it's interesting in this electronic age too. One of my
Yeah.
jobs in the this goes back about 10 years or so was I worked for a company which is one of the major providers of criminal background checks,
Oh,
pre-employment
oh,
criminal
really?
background check.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and this is one of those same things, that I to this day I have mixed feelings about. I mean, I think it's legitimate. I think if you're a thief or jewel thief, I don't want to
Yeah.
hire you to work at Zales behind the counter, right,
Exactly.
selling diamonds.
Right.
On the other side of the coin, though, I do know that a lot of the HR people, they don't use the database responsibly. So let me give an example. So let's say that you apply for a job at some large chain store, and they, as a matter of course, they run everybody's name through this criminal database system. Now,
Right.
problem with the criminal database system in this country is they do not carry identifying information. So in other words, if you were to go to like the state of Texas and say give me a list of everybody that's been incarcerated and their crimes, they'll give you names, they'll give you their address, they'll give you what it was they were convicted of. But there's no social security numbers attached to that. There's no fingerprints attached to that. So sadly, if your name happens to be, John Doe, you got a common name,
Right.
right? When you apply for a job, HR is going to get hits back on John Doe, right? Clearly. And the problem is most HR departments don't want the expense or take the time to say, well, is this John Doe? Somebody's got to go to the courthouse and pull a record and see if
Oh,
it's the
yeah.
same guy.
That's true.
Well, they don't
Right.
do it. They just drop your resume through the shredder and into the trash can, and
Right.
you're out of job, and you never did anything wrong. So, yeah, it kind of there's I guess there's a good and a bad side to the electronic age that we live in.
Well, we have to. I think we're gonna have to bring the things up to the up to par with where we are right now. The databases that supposedly that you mentioned that supposedly are going to give me good identifying information on a potential hire. We need to bring it into the information age, for better or for worse. There's absolutely no reason I shouldn't know more specifically about and be able to, access these databases with a whole lot of cost. Because as you mentioned, when a company or the HR department gets lazy about doing proper screens, and that's what it amounts to, basically laziness and the expenses that have something to do with it as well. But
Sure.
For the most part, we want to get these people. We want to make a decision quickly, and that may, as you mentioned, that could very well mean that your son or your daughter is not going to get hired for a position they're well qualified for, when in actuality there was a minor discrepancy between maybe the middle initial or something,
Right?
someone's
Right.
name.
Well, it's I think one of the problems, sorry if I keep going on about this.
That's
This
okay.
is but one of the problems I think too is when you start making a database of criminal activity,
Right.
Who maintains it? And I don't mean simply adding names, but I mean a lot of times you'll get somebody will be convicted of something, and then later it will be overturned because there was a mistake, or they'll get the record sealed, right? If it was a minor, or for some other reason. Well, there's got to be somebody that is constantly getting those updates and constantly applying them to the right people, because then you're legally liable when if you're saying John was a jewel thief, but that conviction got overturned. Well, clearly he's not a jewel thief, so you can't list him as one anymore. And there's a lot of overhead. We're it's kind of like after 9/11, when they kind of rained down on all the government agencies and said you've got to start talking to each other.
Exactly.
But we still haven't worked through that. They still, there's still no identifying information. It's extraordinarily hard to keep and maintain and be accurate about it. There's a huge liability that goes with telling somebody that somebody else is a criminal if in fact they're not.
This is something that we need to think about, really, Carlton. It's a very good point, because it seems like when we have laws on the books that go back to the 1920s or something, and we find out that we need to tweak a law or modify it or something, instead of deleting laws that are in conflict with the laws that we need to implement now. We just add one on top of the other. And pretty soon it becomes very confusing in terms of, what interpretation or whatever are we going to actually apply,
I agree. I think, there's another layer in here too that are always sort of reluctant to help, which are the ISPs. So if I go onto Blab and I harass Charlene, right? Clearly, Blab, would have a record of, look at the account, look at the time. They could have a record of what the incoming IP address was.
Oh, sure, right.
Well, and they could take that back to my ISP, which here in Chattanooga, Tennessee, is EPB. And they could say, here's an IP address of somebody who is, harassing. They could track that back to the original customer.
Right.
And then block them or refuse to service them or something as a customer. But they don't want to get involved unless you get a search warrant, a warrant. It's like they're helpful, but only to the extent that they legally have to be. They don't go out of their way to be helpful. And so, I think we end up with the same problem sort of here in social media that Uncle Sam had. It's almost impossible to get back to the original person and take any kind of action. I don't know. I don't know how to do it. I think that's a tough question.
Well, we got to find a solution because, we got some very tech savvy people, and people are very good at masking IP numbers and etc.
Sure.
Or at least giving the impression that an IP is associated with a physical location when it wasn't. I think there's a technology though called the blockchain.
Oh, okay. Go ahead. But you need to explain it to me a little bit because I'm not really familiar, but I've heard the term.
Right. The blockchain associated with Bitcoin is basically the Bitcoin is a virtual currency, and a lot of people associate it with being a currency. But actually, there's another aspect called the blockchain, and the blockchain is a central ledger. It's decentralized in that no particular entity, for instance, can control it or tell people what they could, what they can do or what they can't do. It's basically a public ledger that's just out there, almost like the internet. It's very redundant.
Yep, I'm reading the Wikipedia article on it right now. So.
Yeah, exactly, and it seems to be. I don't know if it's a cure-all to everything that we're trying to accomplish, but it seems like if we could run identity-related information to some extent, not necessarily everything about you and about me personally, but if we can somehow associate an online presence with a person and put that on the blockchain, then we could probably say, look, okay, now we have a very good idea who came online, when they came online, and whether or not the actual person, and maybe hold people somewhat accountable.
Hang on one second, Monty. I got it. My son's in the room.
Go ahead. You still there, Charlene? Are you eating? That's fine.
Yeah, okay. I had to make my son food.
Yeah. Okay,
and then I got hungry.
Oh, of course. I'm going to be doing the same thing shortly. Right, so I can understand definitely. I just wanted to get this blab on the record. Yeah, I just wanted to get this blab on the record.
Oh, God.
At least.
I have 10 minutes. Well, okay. I have a blab actually coming up in 10 minutes.
Oh, okay.
But what Carlton doesn't know is that he's co-hosting it.
Oh, there you go.
I already set him as the co-host. I don't know if he got a notification.
Oh, you can do that beforehand?
I don't. It said it added him as a co-host. Oh. So I'm trying to trial it out. I want him to go in and see if he can start the blab.
I think you can. I think someone said that just in case you don't show up, you can designate someone else so that if a scheduled blab is going to go on and that co-host can go ahead and open the blab. So I think there's a way.
So I tried to do it this time because last week I had a migraine. I was up all night with my son and I had a migraine in the morning.
Oh, okay.
And at about 10 o'clock, I took meds.
Right.
I took some like naproxen.
Right.
And I laid down and I fell asleep, and I had a blab scheduled for 12:30 and I missed it.
Oh, really? Okay. Yeah.
And my poor co-host.
Are we talking about her
get in
again?
because I didn't co-host her.
Poor babe. I'm eating some more of my mincemeat pie. Very, very yummy.
By the way, Carlton, in about 10 minutes we're scheduled.
To do what? This sounds like a very surreptitious meeting in a hotel somewhere. What are we scheduled for?
Really, better be careful.
I co-hosted you already, and I need you to go open the blab and see if it'll work.
You probably should tell him what he's going to be talking about.
What? What do I do? I don't know. What? I didn't see this message anywhere. Where do I know about this? How do I know?
Really? You're going to talk
tried
about
quite
rocket
a few
science.
times. Tried quite a few times to like ask you, but you left the blab quicker than I could get the thing typed in.
So what do I do? Just tell me what to do, dear.
At 3:30.
At 3:30.
We have an autism blab.
We do? Okay, good. I subscribed to that notice. I saw that.
That was the second one. That's for next Wednesday that I think you subscribed for.
Okay, fine. So we got one in 6 minutes.
Or this Wednesday.
Okay, try and give me the instructions before the 6 minutes passes.
You're the co-host, and I set you as co-host ahead of time. So I want to see if you can go in and open it up, because that'll tell me whether I can do that with
exactly.
Where would I get a notice that I was the co-host? So that's my question.
I don't know.
How do I do that? I mean, how do I?
I don't know if it does that. I probably should have I tweeted you on the.
I'm looking at my Twitter right now, and I don't have any notifications from today.
That's strange.
Yeah.
Okay,
I noted you in the room.
June Moore, and Bobby, and Chuck, and Jamie, Nathan, Fred.
You know how you can do the @ in the chat bar?
Yeah, you can do the @ in the chat like we're talking to somebody, yeah.
And it's supposed to notify them that you're talking about them.
I wonder if it sent me an email, because I don't use that email for anything.
Maybe you can check it.
I have to check it that way. Yeah, let me.
Do you have your notifications on in your room?
I don't.
On your computer?
Wait, this might be it. Okay, I've got a blab. Your videos available, videos available, videos available, videos available, and then Gav. Nope. So I didn't get any notices from you in my email either that I can. Oh, wait a minute.
I don't even get my videos.
Hold on.
Okay, Charlene, you're making me hungry. I think I'm gonna get some breakfast.
Oh my, Monty, it's a little late for breakfast. Where are you?
I'm in California.
Oh well, then okay, you still got.
It's not so bad. Look
lunchtime.
At that.
Okay.
It's got a fork full of food out there. Okay, I think I'm going to close out this blab. If you want to mention your blab or your blog, Charlene, you can just put it in there. If you have anything, Carl, you want to.
I'm good.
Maha, wait a minute. Maha for learning. Maha, are you still there?
No,
he left. He said he was going to.
Oh, is that a he?
I think so.
There's a girl there's a girl
really?
with YouTube videos where she teaches Arabic, and it's Arabic with Maha.
I assumed that it was a guy for some reason. Yeah,
she's new on here. She's new. Oh, okay. 0 followers, 0 following.
Oh, really?
Okay.
But
yeah.
She does L&D training, coaching for languages, online learning. She's a Warcraft player.
L&D training, coaching, ID, languages, online learning, virtual worlds. Oh, well, she plays WoW too, so I'm going to follow her.
There you go.
Okay.
All right. I'm going to go ahead and close this out.
All righty, Monty.
Put it on record.
We're going to hop over.
I'm going to, okay. I will try to find this, Charlene. If I can't find it, I will just wait till you start it.
Go to my profile.
Okay.
Go to my profile and click on scheduled. And then you'll see the 2 scheduled blabs.
I will. Okay.
Okay, I'll keep an eye out for you guys as well.
All right, Monty. Thank you.
Me too.
Okay.
I see them here. Thanks. Okay.
It was a pleasure, okay?
Same here, Monty.
Okay, I'm following you.
All right, bud.
Bye.
See you next time. All right. Thanks, guys.
It says 2 people subscribed. It's in 2 minutes and 16 seconds. I don't know how to do it. It says how to touch your life. I'm talking to myself, aren't I? Okay. I can do this. Okay, no, I can't. I can do this. I can start now. Excellent. Hey, it works. Excellent. Except I'm not in my own blab. Okay, there I go. Very good. Charlene, come on in now. There's a seat open. I'm not sure if I'm going to let